Hi everyone, it's Rax bringing you another Necro guide in Season 17. Who knew that one class could have so many powerful builds in one season? Okay, so this is going to be the Corpselance solo and group guide. And the way I would best explain it is LoN mages are good for speeds and speed farming the low GRs and farming Paragon points. Okay, and then there's the Thorns that is outrageously good at the highest greater rifts, both in solo and as the Rift Guardian killer as a part of a meta group at the very, very highest. This Corpselance build falls somewhere in between Thorns and Mages, and so this build is incredibly powerful for GRs from 110 to the 130, maybe up to 135 range before Thorns starts to take over. But you can definitely succeed in solo and groups as a Rift Guardian killer with this build. This build is not good for speeds and it's not good for Paragon farming, but in those two situations it's good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all the gear as the group version. Then I'm going to show you what changes you would make for the solo version. And then finally, we will show you some gameplay of exactly what to do to kill a Rift Guardian. And that strategy will also apply to how you play in solo. Let's get to it. The main stats that we're looking for in this build are cooldown reduction to bring our Simulacrum and Land of the Dead back up as quickly as possible. We want attack speed on almost everything in order to hit the 2.0 attacks per second breakpoint, and then when we activate our archers on the Guardian, that will move to 2.4 and let us deal massive damage. We want crit hit damage, but we don't really care about crit hit chance because the Brittle Touch rune on our Corpselance is essentially going to guarantee that everything has a 100% chance to be crit. So we want crit hit damage, but not necessarily crit hit chance. We want cold elemental damage wherever we can get it. And finally, we want essence on our weapon and on our offhand. That's going to make us deal additional damage with the Raylena's in our with the Raylena Shadowhook in our queue. Okay, so Tragul's Corroded Fang. We will take Grim Scythe with the Cursed Scythe rune. We will be cursing what we attack. We deal 200% extra damage, and again, attack speed, CDR, and essence is what we're looking for. Phylactery, you can use any one that rolls the stats that you're looking for. That's the nice thing about it. We don't really care about the cold skill proc on this one. So we want damage, int, vite, CDR, Corpselance damage with essence as the secondary. Stewart's Greaves, we take this because in this build we'll take Blood Rush and it's going to increase our movement speed after we use it with full survivability stats. There are some variations to this build. Some people take illusory boots and wear bone armor instead. That works fine as well. This is just what I prefer to play with. Swampland Waders, these are the only pants that can roll cold elemental damage, so this is what we're going for. They're typically only found on a Witch Doctor, so either gamble your blood shards on a Witch Doctor or upgrade rares to legendary with recipe number 3 in Kanai's Cube on a Witch Doctor in order to get these. Crisbin Sentence, we're going to have the triple bonus from this because we're going to be freezing whatever enemies we attack. And again, attack speed, crit hit damage, and CDR is what we're looking for. We don't really care about crit hit chance. Stone of Jordan, it's got cold elemental damage, 30% elite damage, and 18 essence. Incredible for this build. And we're taking Bane of the Stricken here because we're going to be attacking the Rift Guardian as much as possible, building those stacks in order to get it down. Should also mention the gem over here is Zaystone of Vengeance. We're going to be attacking them as far away as we reasonably can in order to take full advantage of that 80% damage increase at 50 yards away. Okay. Witching Hour, this is the best DPS belt. The attack speed, we need it to get to the 2.0 breakpoint, and the crit hit damage is amazing. We take it for the massive damage increase. Frostburns, again, we don't care about crit hit chance, so int, attack speed, CHD, and CDR. The cold skills deal 20% increased damage and have a 50% chance to freeze enemies. That second part is actually kind of bad for us because our skeletal archers that we take deal cold damage and may freeze the Guardian. We do not want this to happen because it will DR the boss when we use our real freeze and they may get out of it. Okay? So when you see my guide later on, the gameplay, and you see that I'm stressing that you only keep one archer alive, that's why it's from the Frostburns. Corpse Whisper Pauldrons, again, CDR, Corpselance damage, invite. Our Corpselance is increased by 30% for 3 seconds when we consume a corpse. We're going to be consuming corpses when we land of the dead and start shooting our lances, so it's going to give us a big damage increase. Andariel's gives us cold elemental damage and attack speed. We need this to hit our breakpoint. We take it for the massive damage increase. And again, we want to socket this with CDR. Aquila, take this to help stay alive, and we want Corpselance damage rolled on it. I run with intelligence gems because it's okay if you die a couple of times during the rift, but when you get to the Guardian, it's up to you to kill them. So I usually go with intelligence on this. If you find that it's impossible to stay alive, you can switch it for either rubies or emeralds for the armor. The Johnstone. So we want cold, int, crit hit damage. If you absolutely needed to, you could get an attack speed roll here to hit your 2.0 breakpoint, or you could get cooldown reduction. Let me explain what Macabre is, because this actually matters. So when you use your big cooldown, at the end of it, you get 50 charges of Macabre. That means the next 50 lances that you shoot are going to do 200% damage. Okay? So what that means is during the rift at some point, you need to use your Land of the Dead and get this 50 stack buff by the time you've started the Guardian. That way your first round of attacks against the Guardian are going to deal massive damage. Okay? And you want to shoot these 50 stacks during your cold rotation of your Convention of the Elements, which is in the cube. Okay? Because you want that 200% damage window to be magnified by Convention of the Elements. Okay? Now, one thing to be very careful about. If you're in a gigantic room filled with a ton of monsters, and you use Land of the Dead, and while you have Land of the Dead going, you're crit capping the group, you need to make sure to stop Corpselancing before Land of the Dead expires. The reason why is, if you use Land of the Dead and you're shooting lances, and Land of the Dead expires and you have your 50 Macabre stacks, if you're still firing, there will probably be corpses all over the ground from enemies that you've killed. What will happen is you'll shoot lances from their corpses and you'll eat away your 50 Macabre stacks. You might eat all 50 of them, you might eat half of them. Either way, you're going to lose your Macabre stacks for your next round. You want to shoot all of them during cold, so you want all 50 of them for the next time that you fire. Okay? So if that was a little confusing, one more time. When you activate Land of the Dead and you're shooting your lances, take note of the timer on Land of the Dead and stop firing lances before it ends. Because when it finishes, you want to have 50 stacks and exactly 50 stacks for the next time that you fire. Okay? We'll see it later in the gameplay video, but it's very important to understand what this does. And finally, Prowlers. We take Prowlers for the attack speed and the cold skill % damage. I think in some situations they want the Rift Guardian Killer, which is what we are, to take Nemesis Bracers so the supports can wear strong arms. Just make sure that you have 2.0 attacks per second through the combination of the rest of your gear. I think you're going to have to take it on your Johnstone or on your Stone of Jordan in order to reach there. So I strongly advise you take Prowlers instead, but if your group insists that you wear Nems, then just make sure that you have that sorted out. Okay, on to the skills. Grim Scythe, Curse Scythe. We use this to generate essence. We use this to curse our enemies and activate our Tragouls. And we use this to stack Stricken. So you just swing at the boss before you do your gigantic cooldown. Okay. Let's go to Blood Rush. I take Metabolism. I found that having 2 charges of this saves me way more than having a 100% armor buff from Potency, but a lot of people like to take Potency. Take whichever rune that you want. Try them both. Try the 100% armor. Try the double Blood Rush. But for me, I'll take the double Blood Rush any day of the week. All right, now let's get into the meat of this. So the way that I do it is I pop Simulacrum first, okay? It's a big cooldown that's going to kill you, but your essence is doubled, okay? Your essence is doubled is important because it makes you do more damage because you have Raylina's Shadow Hook in the cube. Every point of maximum essence increases your damage by 0.5%, okay? So we pop Simulacrum, which is a 15-second buff, and then I walk away from the boss, and then I pop Land of the Dead right before cold begins, okay? All corpse skills can be used at will for 10 seconds, and enemies in the Land of the Dead are frozen. Okay, so that means we can shoot our attack for 10 seconds, and it means that when they're frozen, they're not going to move. That's very important to not have them DR'd by your group or by your archers, and it's going to proc your Crispin Sense. You're essentially going to wipe them off the face of the earth. So we, halfway through poison, which is before cold, we activate Simulacrum. We walk away. I recommend you walk away. Don't blood rush away, because I can't tell you how many times that's gone wrong for me. Just walk away. Then you activate Land of the Dead at the very end of your poison rotation, and then you lance them, and your first 50 lances are going to destroy the Guardian with your Macabre stacks during cold. Okay? So these are the 2 gigantic cooldowns that we use in unison to use our attack. And finally, right before we do that big, huge attack, we're going to be slowly, very slowly, casting Skeletal Mages. We only want 1 alive at a time, at the most 2. They're going to give us 10 stacks of attack speed, okay? And that is going to allow us to hit the 2.0 breakpoint to fire way more lances during those big, huge cooldowns to get the Guardian down. And then finally, for the passives, we have Final Service. This build is pretty squishy. If you get hit, you want to stay alive to save your Macabre stacks. Swift Harvesting gives you 15% attack speed on Grim Scythe. It lets you stack Stricken faster to deal more damage to the boss. Standalone is good because we don't have any pets, so we get a 100% armor buff. And Overwhelming Essence, it lets us do more damage from our Raylina's Shadow Hook. Okay? And then finally, in the cube, we have Raylina's Shadow Hook. We talked about this like 5 times. Dainty's Binding gives us 50% damage reduction to as long as there is an enemy cursed. So while you're walking around through the rift, just curse monsters and just kind of stand still in the middle, and you'll have that nice damage reduction buff. And Convention of the Elements, we're going to do way more damage when the cold cycle comes around. All right, let's talk about the changes for the solo build. And essentially, I can wrap them up in 2 phrases. We need as much cooldown as possible because we also have to clear the entire rift, and we're essentially going to be lancing all the elites the exact same way that we would be lancing a Guardian. Okay, so it's just a lot more of the same style of gameplay. So because of that, we need our Simulacrum and our Land of the Dead up as often as possible, and we need more survivability. Okay, those 2 things are what we're going for. So we take out Andarios for Leorix to double the benefit of our cooldown gem for more cooldown. We take out Prowlers for Nemesis Bracers because we have to spawn an elite on every pylon because elites are the only thing that we kill in this build. That's why it's not a good speed build. And yellows, which always spawn from Nemesis Bracers, are way better than blues because there's only 1 of them to kill and they drop 4 orbs. Okay, so Nemesis Bracers are key for this. And finally, we're going to drop Stone of Jordan with Stricken for Unity with Molten Wildebeest Gizzard. Unity gives us 50% damage reduction as long as we give a Unity to our follower, combined with the little relic that makes them invincible. They can't die. And we take Molten Wildebeest Gizzard to survive. I've tried to do this without Molten Wildebeest Gizzard, and it's pretty much impossible. So take Molten Wildebeest Gizzard for sure. Then we're going to make just a few changes to the skills. Instead of Blood Rush, Metabolism, which gives us 2 jumps, we're going to take Molting, which leaves a corpse behind. We could either devour it or shoot a lance from it in order to get an elite down. That's why we take Molting. Devour Satiated is going to increase our maximum life. It's going to help us stay alive, and it's the only thing that's going to give us our essence back from cursing. And then Decrepify Borrowed Time is going to give us increased cooldown reduction. You're seeing a pattern here. We need as much cooldown reduction as possible. So since we dropped Grim Scythe, the Swift Harvesting rune does nothing. Passive. The Swift Harvesting passive does nothing for us. So we will take Blood is Power, which, you may have guessed it, gives us more cooldown. Everything else I think is exactly the same between the 2 builds. Alright, before we jump into a little bit of gameplay, let me explain to you what's going on. Okay? So, as the Rift Guardian killer for the group, all we're going to do is stand in the middle on the palace with the monk and everybody. We're just going to cut the weeds with Grim Scythe. We're just applying all the curses to everything. We're just going to follow along, and that's it. You're just essentially waiting till the end of the rift to do the one job that you have to do. Okay? And by the way, if you're not a Rift Guardian killer, if you are one of the other 3 roles and you get to the end and the RGK, the Lancer, doesn't kill the Guardian, make sure to say something like, "You had one job." Make sure to give them a hard time for it. Okay, now when we get to the Guardian, first thing we're going to do is we're going to start stacking Stricken on the Guardian. Then, ever so slowly, we're going to start casting mages. Mage, you see his timer right here? See his timer? And then when he's about to expire, I cast another mage. And when he's about to expire, I cast another one. Don't do this. Don't spam mages. Don't do that. We already covered this, but remember, you have a 50% chance to freeze enemies with cold skills. Skeletal Archer is a cold skill. If you freeze the boss over and over and over, when you back away to really freeze him for 10 seconds, he's not going to be frozen for 10 seconds, and that is very, very, very bad. Okay? So, just one archer at a time, and we're going to be building our essence back up. Okay? Now, hopefully, before you got to the Guardian, you will have used Land of the Dead, and you will have your 50 Macabre stacks. You need to know the rotation. It's poison, and then cold, which is what we want, and then it's physical. Okay? So what we want to do is halfway through poison, we pop Simulacrum right now. Then we run away, and then we pop Land of the Dead, and then we kill the Guardian. Okay? We run away because we have Zay's Stone of Vengeance. The farther away we are, the more damage that we do. Okay? So, go up to the boss, you hit him, slowly cast mages. I'm out of essence, but I wouldn't be if I was there to gain essence back with my Cursed Scythe. Okay? When it's halfway through poison and you're satisfied and you're ready to kill him, you run away, cast Simulacrum, and then Land of the Dead, and then hold right-click with Corpselance and execute him. So here we go. I'm attacking. Halfway through poison, Simulacrum. Run away, Land of the Dead, kill him. He's dead. Okay? Let's go into some gameplay, and I'll show you exactly how that works. Alright, so when the Guardian spawns, we head over, we start stacking Stricken with our Scythe, and we slowly cast mages as we just explained. Now, you'll see I have my 50 Macabre stacks there as my second buff. Be careful, we don't want to die here, because if we do, then we lose that tremendous damage. So, here comes the rotation. I'm going to pop Simulacrum and then Land of the Dead and then take my first shot at him. Now, I wanted to be much farther away than him than that, but that's okay. You just want to try to be as far away as you possibly can. But if you're too far away, sometimes the Corpselances won't even fire. So, it's a balance between everything, and I would not recommend blood rushing away because I've just had that go wrong so many times, and sometimes the boss teleports and it's very sensitive. I've just found just better just to walk away. But other than that, we just jump back on in here. You can see my cooldowns in 1 and 2 slowly coming back. So I'm just building stricken stacks until then. Now this is GR 129. I actually did this on purpose. I did 2 rotations because I wanted to show the gameplay. But another option that you have, if you know you can kill a Guardian in just 1 attack with just a few stricken stacks, you can just stack stricken for 30 seconds and then just one-shot him. That's what I would normally do here, but again, I wanted to illustrate that if you want to, you can take a crack at him right in the beginning, wait 70 seconds or whatever it is, and go again. So I tell my team here, stop attacking. You'll notice they all disperse about 10 seconds before I'm going to do it, because remember, we don't want him DR'd by anything. There's Simulacrum and Land of the Dead. Look how far away I am for maximum damage, and sayonara. Alright, a few quick comments about the solo gameplay. So we're going to zone in, we're going to start cursing enemies, that way we activate our Dainty's binding damage reduction, and we're just going to be moving from elite to elite to elite, doing exactly what you just saw. Simulacrum, Land of the Dead, kill him with Corpselance during cold. One trick. Go a little bit earlier at the start of poison and activate everything, and find a little minion in the room, something with very low HP that is not attached to any elite, so it's not a yellow minion, just like a little rat or a little worm. And during poison, shoot a few lances to kill them, and then they will spawn an Oculus ring somewhere. The Oculus ring will be on your follower right here. You'll put it on John Dar. Okay? So, when the Oculus ring spawns after you kill the little minion, jump into it, and then your cold rotation should be up, and then kill the elite. Okay? We want to kill all the yellows. The Juggernauts can be a little bit challenging because they just don't take as much damage, but you should be able to get them down. We want to kill all the 3 packs of blues. The 4 packs can be challenging, but you should be able to get them down, or if you don't quite get it, kite them forward to the next elite. Maybe you can get them both down in the next cooldown, or maybe there will be a pylon that will let you get them both down. The 5 packs of blues are difficult to deal with. I wouldn't recommend trying them unless you're extremely comfortable with the build. In general, I would just skip them. And we're skipping all trash. So just zone in. You're looking for your first yellow. During poison, pop all of your cooldowns. Kill a little minion, blood rush into the Oculus ring, get the yellow down, grab the orbs, move on. And remember, every pylon is going to spawn a beautiful yellow for us, and we're going to have some kind of buff. So pylons are even more amazing for this build than other ones. Alright, and that's it. And then when you get to the Guardians, same strategy. It's just a lot of the same, and it just takes practice. Well, that's it, everyone. We posted a ton of guides. I think this is a guide for every build that I'm currently playing, all 6 of them on YouTube. So let me know what are the next videos you'd like to see. I'm going to put up guides on how to farm Paragon points efficiently and how to get Primal Ancients, the fastest way that I know how to get them. And maybe we'll do a crafting guide or whatever you guys want. Just let me know. Love you guys. Hit that like and subscribe button if this helped you, and I'll see you again.